Michaelites, and this is webinar 18. So let's learn about what Incredible Michaelites actually was and what is the history. So we are talking about 225 days of the activity, 7.5 months of the concept. 53 Incredible Michaelites have attended this so far, 19 batches, 14 cities, 8 countries, 18 webinars, 1 school, unlimited talent. That's what the Michaelites Patna has been. And if we sort out properly, we had 20 bureaucrats, we had 15 corporates, we had 8 people from the medical side, we had 4 legal, we had 2 people from the education side, we had 2 people from the railways, 2 sports, and 1 politician. So to welcome on this particular episode of Incredible Michaelites, I would welcome Mr. Rajesh, Ranjan, 1974 batch, Mr. Abhijit, Sahay, 1978 batch, and Dr. Ravi, Kirti, 1993 batch. So before we start anything else, I would welcome Mr. Amba Banerjee, our teacher, and also the alumni of the school. And as I always say, he knows the school better than anyone else. So Amba sir, we'll start with the school stories and anecdotes before we go to the professional side of it. And at the end, we'll have one line for each Incredible Michaelite and the school on a whole. So Amba sir, over to you.
Thank you, Nishant. Thank you so much. And, as I always say, Nishant does the adult stuff and I do the below 18 years stuff. Okay. So this Incredible Michaelites is all about the incredible Michaelites that all of you are. Right. It's about remembering school friends with the same sense of gratitude not expressed. And of course, remembering teachers, perhaps towards whom we were not so grateful or didn't express our gratitude, maybe at that point of time. All right, we would say, okay, oh my God, again he is come, oh, the boss is coming, and so on. But then now we remember each one of them with a lot of gratitude. So welcome Rajesh, welcome Abhijit, and welcome Ravi. 74, 78, and 93. So Ravi is the baby of today's panel, right? Along with, of course, the super anchor Nishant, whose brainchild is the Incredible Michaelites. And as is our custom, we begin with the senior most, okay, batch-wise. So I have, I'm sure, Abhijit's and Ravi's permission to begin with Rajesh. Right, Ravi and Abhijit? Right, thank you. So here we go. Welcome, Rajesh. Rajesh was a day scholar, 1974. All right. And at that point of time, Rajesh, were you a very serious guy? All right. So just take us down memory lane. And I'm sure you got admitted in St. Michael. So all of you are you original Michaelites, or Rajesh, did you come over from Xavier's as a part of that merger program?
No, we were all original Xaverians, and then we migrated. So we are, in a sense, migrants.
Okay, you're migrant. All right, likely. All right. Okay. Fine. Hello. Yeah. So I just want Rajesh, you to just recall, because Father Murphy was your principal when you got admitted, and then we, of course, had Father Murphy right throughout our career. I mean, like school career, because right from standard 2 when we got admitted, and we were the last batch to be sent off in what used to be a very beautiful recognition night or evening, all right, for the senior most 11-year senior Cambridge students. I don't know whether that practice was carried forward or not by Father Harland and so on, but then yes. So then how did you feel, when Father Murphy was no longer there, and then a very different personality, okay, in his own way, wonderful personality, very versatile. Father Harland, all right, came in as your principal. So remember, just take us down memory lane and talk about your principal, talk about the other teachers, and talk about your friends. So it's all yours, Rajesh, for the next 5 to 7 minutes.
Thank you, Ambedkar. Again, to compare two very different personalities. Father Murphy, of course, because we interacted with him for a longer period, and he was such a towering personality that one has probably slight and greater affection for him than one did for Father Harlan. But when I look back at things in retrospect, when I realized that Father Harlan was equally a great principal that we had. His managerial style was, of course, slightly different from what Father Murphy's was. Father Murphy was probably more patronly, he was very kind. Father Harlan was much more of a disciplinarian. So when Father Murphy passed away, there was a sense of vacuum that we all felt. And again, a sense of comparison that we all indulged in. But towards the end, before we passed out, we realized that the person who had replaced Father Murphy was in no way inferior to him. So I look back at those days with happy memories. This whole interview, it entails memory travel almost 46 years. So it's a rather blurry black and white collage. And after I spoke to you last, I did try to pick up a few which still resonate very sharply. Of course, among the luminaries that we had, Father Zubliki, Father Courts, Mr. Raj, Mr. Thomas, Mr. Francis, the entire gamut. They are so much part of our collective DNA, and I'm sure my fellow panelists would also agree with me, that it's difficult to pick up favorites. But among the many anecdotes that came to mind, there's one which I would like to relate to you. There was this school fete that we used to go to in St. Joseph's. And this would be an annual affair. And just before the fete, there would be a general sense of excitement about, going to, because in those days we didn't have co-ed education. 2 days prior to the fete, the weekly maths test was held. And on the day that we were to go for the school fete, one of my batchmates, he was dressed very grandly in, what his father had brought for him from abroad. This was a pair of UK boots and those Japanese polyester shirts and shades from USA. So we were pulling his leg, and Mr. Raj was there in the class just before we were to leave for the school trip. So we told Mr. Raj that, sir, look at him. He has Japanese shirt and US goggles and UK boots. And Mr. Raj, in his inimitable style, he said, yes, yeah, UK boots, huh? And Indian F9 in maths. So that is something which really stuck to our memory. A whole lot of anecdotes, but again, two incidents which now, of course, one looks back in amusement, but slightly traumatic when it happened at that time. Of course, in subsequent years, one had a lot of opportunity for public speaking, but my first foray in that area was an unmitigated disaster. We had this inter-school debate competition, and it was in Hindi. And like many of my brethren from North Bihar, we had trouble differentiating between sir and sir, and the and the. So when I went onto the stage and to the podium and I opened my debate with great tradition, I thought I'd capture the day with the first sentence. And I said, Bharat ek krishi pradhan desh hai.
Desh hai.
And my good friend, my best friend rather, he immediately retorted, Rajesh, baith jao. So that was the end of my debating career for quite some time. And then the moral of the whole story was that your best friend should be your best critic, because that made you amend and redress things. Quickly, if I had the time, I'd relate to you another incident, again, which was at that time very traumatic. Now, of course, I look back in amusement. There was this girl from St. Joseph that I had taken fancy to. So, 8 of my batchmates, they took upon themselves the task of arranging a meeting for me. So we went to St. Joseph's, and it was like a scene from a Hindi movie. There was this angelic girl coming towards me, and 8 pairs of very intent eyes watching and recording every moment. So this girl approaches me, and at that time one was a gawky, unsure, insecure teenager. And the only thing I could stutter in response to her hi was, kind of her. And for several years thereafter, they tormented me with the fact that it was not a hi in English, but a hi in Hindi. And she was bemoaning her misfortune of meeting someone like me. So these were 2 memories that, of course, came to mind. And I'm sure my fellow panelists will have equally interesting ones as we go by.
Yeah, Rajesh, just one question, all right, before I move on to Abhijit, and that is, when you were in school, I mean, like, did somebody inspire you to actually, dream of becoming an IPS officer, or joining the administrative services, or that happened much later? I mean, like, school used to be carefree days.
Like most children at that age, one had grandiose kind of ambitions of becoming a fighter pilot and joining the army, becoming a medical doctor, and a whole lot of things. So the focus was not really so much there till we entered high school. And at that time, one was kind of sure that one will enter the science stream, because my father was a scientist and his passion was science, and he wanted his son. I was the only son of my parents, so he wanted his son to join the science stream. And so I did. I joined the intermediate science, and then I had to join physics honors the next day. But something happened in the university. There was a condolence meeting, and the university was closed for a day. And overnight, my mind changed, and I decided to go and join English. So this was an accident. And of course, I joined English. So the national pastime was a natural follow-up to that. One entered the civil service exam, and as luck would have it, I joined the police service. So it was kind of accidental, coincidental, however you put it.
Lovely, thank you. It was a lovely accident, because you see, I met Rajesh, really met him in a nice way when we were together. I was in MA, and I think he was doing his BA honors at that point of time. And we were together, all right, doing plays. He was the hero of his play, Miss Julia, all right, and I was, supposed to be the hero of, my play that was Chekhov's The Bear, and we did it together. And those were 2 one-act plays.
You had the more glamorous one. You had the more glamorous one.
Okay, thank you, Rajesh, for those wonderful, wonderful memories. I mean, it was a sheer pleasure listening to you. Now we move on to Abhijit. Welcome, Abhijit. Welcome to the Incredible Michaelites. And Abhijit, well, I think for you it was all Father Harland, all right, as your principal right throughout. Am I right?
No, not quite. Actually, I joined the school in 1972. Mm-hmm. And Father Murphy was there when we joined. He passed away during our first year.
He passed away in September 72. Yeah.
And then before Father Harlan joined, we had 2 other principals. There was a Father De Mello and then Father Ribeiro.
Okay.
They were there for just a few months each, I think. But yeah, the bulk of my tenure there, it was Father Harland. And
all right.
As Rajesh was saying, it was I don't remember Father Murphy much at all. It was just
obviously, yeah.
but he was sort of, everyone talked highly of him. But Father Harlan was the bigger than life character when we were there. He was very dynamic guy.
Yes. Yeah.
And one thing I do remember is that, Father Murphy and Father Cox and Father Zubriki, the older ones, they always wore the white habit. But Father Harlan never did. He was shirt and pant, and he would ride a cycle and all that stuff. So.
Yeah, okay, right. And when you were in school, I mean, like, do you remember yourself as a versatile all-rounder at that point of time, taking part in co-curricular activities and sports and so on, apart from, of course, being a very serious student?
Towards the end, I became one of these all-rounder types. I was very shy when I was younger. I think somewhere in ninth, even early ninth, I was still quite,
Okay, yeah, all right, yeah.
But somewhere around then, I think my height also shot up a little bit, and then I started to do other things. The school, we used to have only, cricket, football, and hockey as the main sports until my 8th grade. And then Father Harlan was actually quite instrumental in it. He got the basketball court built. And of course, the senior guys who, like the 9th and 10th folks, they were not into it. Whoever was playing what they were playing. So Mr. Jeff DeCosta, he was the vice principal, and he tried to round up some of the younger guys to build up a team. So that's also, it was a factor in becoming a bit of an all-rounder. I started to play basketball, and I was in the team. And so, yeah, I was an all-rounder, in the 9th and 10th. Also debate kind of stuff that Rajesh was talking about.
Yes, Abhijit. And so, I mean, like, what was your favorite subject? And, just recall some memories, all right, vis-a-vis your favorite teachers or the teachers, towards whom or for whom you would like to express gratitude and love. And of course, maybe, I'm sure you were not the kind who ever gave any trouble to any teacher.
No, I was not.
I know.
I was everyone's favorite, actually. The teacher, the subject I liked most was maths, for sure. But I also liked English a lot. I was, we had Julius Caesar when we were in class 9. And I started to love it. It was like I never knew until I read it that it was, English could be so much like engaging. And by the end of the year, I actually remembered Julius Caesar by heart. You can give me any line, I could tell you the next 7 lines without much effort. So I used to love English and maths, both of them. The others, I was not actually that fond of. I did well in everything, but I was not fond of the others much.
Yeah, as Abhijit, and I'm sure you were not the pranky and the cranky kind, but do you remember some of your friends who, really made made school life really memorable? Like sometimes, even though I also never gave trouble to my teacher, but I do remember a couple of friends who did give trouble, and I remember them very fondly at times.
Yep. So I remember most of my friends very well. Pranks, I don't remember, there were a few standout pranks, but the people I remember most were my closest friend from those days, Rakesh Chandra, who unfortunately passed away a few years ago. Yesterday was his birthday. In fact, I was talking to his wife. He was my favorite person in class 10. He was also reasonably studious, but he was full of ideas for pranks. And not just in school. We would, his father was a famous doctor, and he would get invitations to lots of weddings. So during the wedding season, almost every evening, there was a there's a chance he would just look at the cards that he had got and go and eat at these weddings. So Rakesh was the big influence on me also. I mean, not that I became like him, but I used to, talk closely with him every day. Um, some other, uh, prankster is not quite again the word. One incident I do remember. Class 8, the same time as this basketball court was coming up. It was a free period, and some other teacher was there, and he'd asked us to do stuff, but everybody was doing, playing games and not respecting whatever he wanted. And there were some people writing chits on like little pieces of paper and sticking them into other people's, the guy in front is into his pant, and some of them were quite not not something you would do in class. So the guy who was invigilating, that was the word we used, he got very upset and he took out one of them and he said, this is like very bad. So he sent that guy to the vice principal's office, Jeff's office, and there was a big, like one after the other, he kept calling people and saying, you tell me what you did, you tell me what you did. And so it was like, for about 30 minutes, and it was quite, we were having fun when it started, but it became very serious. And, people's parents were called up and all that. You asked earlier about teachers. I think the teachers that I liked most, and Mr. Raj in the older days, and Mr. Rocky DeCosta when I was young. He had he used to even cane us if you didn't get the right, you put out your knuckles and use a ruler to hit
you. So Abhijit, did Mr. Rocky DeCosta teach you mathematics and use the cane, or did he teach you geography and use the cane?
No, mathematics.
All right, okay. So hats off to you, because you see, he used the cane, all right, as a maths teacher for me, and it was the end of maths for me. All right, but then a lovely person. I mean, I learned a lot of football and other things, from Mr. Rocky DeCosta. Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, but there was a legend or like a story about him. He had a little, his tongue was a little chipped. And we used to hear that he and Jeff had a fight when they were young. And Jeff gave him a punch. He got him on his chin and he chipped his own tongue off.
Yes. Yeah. And we also said that's why, Mr. Rocky DeCosta, normally, the moment he enters school, he walks, I think, 5 meters, in front, and Mrs. Ann DeCosta always, behind him. But the moment they left school, all right, to walk back towards, their house, they would be, absolutely in tandem.
Yep.
And we used to, have a nice, fun and laughter on that issue. Yeah.
Their son was in our class.
Yeah.
Sorry, Rocky and son was in our class. Floyd DeCosta.
Ah, okay. Yes. Right. Thank you, Abhijit. Thank you so much for those lovely memories. Okay, it was wonderful, listening to you. And now we move on to Ravi. And of course, Ravi and Nishant. I mean, Nishant, it would have been ideal if you were talking to Ravi, okay, rather than, I doing it. Yes, I mean, please, Nishant, feel free to butt in, all right? And for a change, become 18 and below. Right. So, Ravi, your memories about school, about teachers, about principals, about friends, and of course, about the very, very serious, incredible anchor, Nishant Dayal. Okay, please. All yours, Ravi.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. And thank you, Nishant, for having me. And I'm truly humbled to be here. So I wasn't an original Michaelite in that sense of the word, because I joined the school in class 7. And Father P.T. Augustine was the principal then. And he was a disciplinarian. really. And we came to realize this only after he left and Father Norbert Manages joined in his place, because he had a different leadership style really, and he would mingle with students more freely, and but then well, it's debatable. Uh, it's difficult to pass a judgment on which is the better way to
No, we
lead,
shouldn't. We shouldn't.
really,
Yes,
really.
absolutely. Yeah.
Uh, and we had some fascinating teachers. I remember when I started, Father Dominic had a lot of impact on me. He actually set me off on a spiritual path with his sadhana classes, which were like meditation. So weekly we used to go to the audiovisual room for a meditation class. We used to call them sadhana classes. And every time he would start his class, he would make us meditate for a couple of minutes. So I really liked it, because then in my own time, in my own solitude at my home, I started meditating then. Uh, Unfortunately, I didn't quite continue with that practice after I left school, and once I went to college, where we used to live, four of us in one room. So the environment was uh, different. So yes, I remember Father Dominic so much, and I'm so thankful to him to have initiated me into some spirituality. Then, of course, Mr. Peter, Mr. Nashka, uh, Lal sir, Mr. Lal, um, Mr. Henry Francis, Mr. Robin Francis, uh, Miss Mary MacDonald. These were some of the other teachers who did leave a lot of impact on all of us, I guess. They were all brilliant teachers. Um, and I would also mention Mrs. Sunita Halda. She was our Hindi teacher in class 10. And the reason I'm mentioning her is I often feel that we couldn't get the best out of her, because somehow the rapport between her and our class was destroyed at the outset. Because we were talking about pranks and mischiefs, and somehow the kind of things we did in her class, maybe not personally me, but a lot of us did. Uh, she didn't like, and from there on it was very difficult, because even if something was said innocently, she would take it as a mischief, and unfortunately, but she was a very good teacher, and I always liked people who spoke good Hindi or good English, and she was one of them. So, for example, I remember that poem by Nirala, वह तोड़ती पत्थर, and it goes, एक बार देखा मैंने उसे इलाहाबाद के पथ पर वह तोड़ती पत्थर, and when she was describing, she said, सूर्य देव अपने प्रचंड रूप में विद्यमान थे, and I was like, oh, what a nice way to describe the scorching sun. So you remember some of these things, and they stick with you. And even now, if sometimes I come back from the sun, and uh, uh, the heat is too much, I would tell my wife, "Oh, Surya Dev apne prachand roop mein vidyaman hai." So. Uh, and sir, we didn't, you really never taught us, but I do remember you coming in to fill in for someone else a couple of times. And again, you were someone who we were all, or at least I was in awe of, really, because of the way you spoke English. Uh, and I remember one class where you came in, and you were just talking to all of us, and you asked us an antonym for victorious. And then we all of us said lost, defeated, and was like that, and you were not impressed. And then the word you wanted to hear was vanquished. So I learned that word from that class, vanquished. I still remember very vividly.
Because, maybe I also wanted to see, whether you're able to say vanquish or not.
Vanquished, yes.
That would have been, yeah. Right. Yes, victory and victorious
Victoria, yes.
and vanquished. Yes.
So
Oh,
yes.
wow. Ravi, thank you. All right. Thanks for that memory, because, I had forgotten that completely. And Ravi, did you take part in, any co-curricular activities, debates or,
Yes. So I was into oration quite a bit. So I did participate in some of these debates and elocution contests. And that reminds me. Uh, I've mentioned Father Dominic, that he set me off on a spiritual path, and I used to read Swami Vivekananda a lot in my school days. And just about a week ago, we have celebrated his anniversary on the 12th of January. So in 1993, when we were in class 10, so that was the centenary of his speech at Chicago. So we thought, okay, we must observe this occasion. We must celebrate it. So I think I took along with me my friend Sumit, and we approached the school management that we wanted to organize something on that occasion. So we had a symposium, and we went around the city and invited different schools to participate in it. And ultimately, I think it was only St. Joseph and Notre Dame who sent students to participate in this activity. So we had a symposium on the universality of the Vedanta. Father Tom Perumalil was the vice president, and I remember the topic we had suggested was Vedanta, the universal religion. And he wasn't happy with the word religion coming in there. So we changed it to the universality of the Vedanta. So I remember that. And yes, I did participate in some debates. And
right. Thank you, Ravi. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for those lovely memories. And of course, school. And you talked about, Hindi, and I remember. So I would like to hand over to Nishant, but then in Mr. Robin Francis style, the school is all about gratitude to friends and teachers. So it will be Ehsaan mere dil pe tumhara hai dosto. Ehsaan mere dil pe tumhara hai dosto. Ye dil tumhare pyar ka mara hai dosto. Nishant,
Very good.
over to you.
Fantastic, sir.
Thank
So
you.
Lovely, Amber.
when Ravi was speaking, I was just remembering Mr. Henry Francis. He used to say, "Mujhse lagoge to jal jaoge." His favorite thing. So we'll come to the professional part of this Incredible Michaelite. So we'll start with Rajesh Bhaiya, 1984 batch IPS, ex-DG CISF, retired in November 2020. 36 years of experience in law enforcement, which includes field policing at senior supervisory level, 7-year tenure with the CBI, 5-year tenure with Interpol, and 4 years as CVO in Gale. So some incredible experiences, sir. So Rajesh, we will straight away come to the question. We would like to know about your managerial style and how did they help you in your career?
Okay, as you did detail, one has worn many hats in one's career. But there's one dictum that I always believed in, and that is that never take yourself too seriously because no one else does. And barring a few interludes of vanity as they say, I have generally followed the dictum lest I be accused of any pretension of profundity. But when I recall my managerial style, a couple of things I'd like to mention. The first, of course, is that I always tried to interact with people from a position of trust. And as you know that, I've been involved in supervision of organizations which have a very wide and very large human resource. So this position of trust, in fact, it went to the point of gullibility. So much so that my wife would always tell me that तुम बहुत भोले हो, तुम्हें लोग बेवकूफ बनाते हैं. And I would retort and I would tell her, why do you complain? You are the biggest beneficiary of this, of my gullibility. So jokes apart, the one thing I discovered was in my career is that trust actually begets trust. And I don't know whether it's because in my haath ki rekhaon mein or otherwise, I always had enviable teams wherever I served. And barring a few exceptions, and again, there was some joy in being cheated also. Generally, the people I reposed trust in, they matched my belief. That is one. The other thing is that, very early in my career, I realized that in the organization that I would serve in, I cannot be a jack of all trades, neither a master of it. I can at best be a facilitator. So I tried to involve the whole team in the organizational effort, and this actually served me well. On my part, I would say, a little bit of daring, a little bit of innovation, loads of love, and above all, loads and loads of compassion, because again, as I mentioned earlier, the organization that I served in dealt with the last organization, CISF. We had a strength of over 150,000 personnel. So unless you displayed or you were generally committed to compassion, your men will not respond to your leadership. So that is something I always realized. The second thing or the third thing which I believed in was that one should always be trying to get out of one's comfort zone. And this I learned from my father because he was a genetics professor. And his belief was that, inbreeding is the worst thing that can happen in science or in other areas of life. And he would relate to me that look at the UK universities. Till the time they were inviting the faculty from all over the world, they were prospering, they were doing well. And then the US universities took over because they opened up their doors to people from all over. So the concept of inbreeding is relevant to all sectors. And therefore, in my career, I always looked at opportunities which would push me out of the comfort zone. So rather than, let's say serve in my own state, I moved on to Delhi. Then I aspired for, and as luck would have it, I got a posting in Lyon, Interpol Secretariat. There, it was an absolutely alien environment. You had people from around 70 odd countries serving in the Secretariat. And you had to relate to them well because you were actually representing the country. So that was a huge, huge challenge. But again, it was the most satisfying also. So these things have served me well in my career. And, taking a cue from Dr. Ravi, and I would use my policeman's observation powers, Dr. Sahay. The meditation that you do, I'm also into a bit of meditation. I've picked this up from the Mahesh Yogi School of TM. And in fact, we used to have sessions for the entire organization in CISF and also in BSF, where I served earlier. It actually gives you a calmness which is so much palpable. I can see it on your face, that beatific look on your face. So to my personnel, I would always say that push your boundaries. And one of my favorite couplets is Bhavar se lado, tund lehron se uljo, kahan tak chaloge, kinare kinare. So, it's been a long and satisfying career. I admitted office in November, 1.5 months back. And one has no regrets. One has only happy memories of what life has given me so far. Thank you.
Superb. Great, Bhaiya. I will come back to you again, Bhaiya. I'll go to Abhijit Bhaiya. So Abhijit Bhaiya, head of data practice at a consulting firm serving Fortune 500 companies, and IIT Kanpur and UC Berkeley. So Bhaiya, the first question is, we would like to know most difficult and challenging things you faced in your career.
I would say, so I was in a career which is very technical, and all my time, all my effort was, focused on the day-to-day problems. And then September 11, 2001, that's when I looked up from my desk, so to speak, and trying to understand what is going on. And, everyone has their own way of dealing with things. And my method is to try to learn everything about the whole situation. So I started to read about things that I had no idea about, politics, history, economics, all kinds of things. And I started to feel, so in the day I would be working, and in the night I used to read, and just trying to figure out what is going on in the world. And it was exciting, of course, but also I felt very frustrated. And I actually told my older brother that I wish that when I was in school and college, I wish I had studied all these things, history and so on, because actually science and maths, these are so easy. You can, you read any textbook, you read the same thing. You can figure out Newton's laws from this one or from that one. But history, economics, you hear different things. You read about something from this side, and you have to spend a lot of time, and I don't have any time. And also, at work, I would never say no. And during that same period, things were growing, at work. So I was getting more and more things to do. So I would say that was the most challenging part, not just of my career, but it's my, growth.
It's no wonder that science was so easy for you, and then we all know that you were the 6-pointer of the batch as well. So, really proud of you, Bhaiya. I'll come back to you again, Bhaiya. I'll go to Dr. Ravi Kirti. So, Ravi, the youngest of the Incredible Michaelites batch, same as my batch, to this platform. So, welcome, Ravi. So, Ravi is MBBS 2001, MRCP UK 2005, FRCP in 2012, worked with NHS UK 2004 to 13, joined AIMS Patna as member of faculty and founder, head of Department of General Medicine, currently the additional professor and the head as well. So Ravi, you have accomplished so many good stuff in the field of medicine as well. We would like to know your experience and role in establishing departments, from scratch at AIMS.
Right. So when I uh, came back to India in 2013, that's when AIMS was just coming up. So it was an entirely different kind of experience, which uh, I think I was very fortunate to have, because I joined a department which didn't have any room, any place, any furniture, nothing. I mean, literally, we started from the scratch. So we started an OPD in the residential campus of AIMS in a small room, but then within a few months we moved to the main campus, and I've literally carried furniture, chairs, and tables, and then and those kind of stuff. When I joined, I was the only member of faculty in my department, and then I had a senior resident working with me. But in no time, within a couple of months after starting the OPD, we were getting loads of patients. I mean, more than 100 patients a day in a matter of 1 or 2 months, and I was coming home late every day. I mean, into the evening. And since then, we've come a long way. We're running 24-hour emergency. We've got inpatient bed base. Of course, the OPD. We have 5 faculty members now, at least 20 residents. Uh, at least 5 or 6 batches of MBBS have passed out from AIMS Patna by now. We are teaching postgraduate students, people who are doing MD medicine are now joining. So we've got, I think, 3 batches of them as well now. So yeah, it's been a great experience and a learning experience for me as well, because these are things that you don't learn in any textbooks. Certainly not in medicine textbooks, and I wonder even in management textbooks whether they teach those kind of stuff, team building and uh, uh, negotiating with people at various levels. So yeah, it's been a very nice experience.
And Ravi, how difficult was it for you to move from UK back to India and then coming to him? So, do you think your decision proved that it was a good decision taken?
Uh, it was difficult, but that's something I'd always planned. So uh, I had already decided that I would move back to India in 2014. So that I had to predate it by about 1 year, because in 2012 I saw this job advertisement for AIMS Patna. So I thought, well, that would be a good opportunity for me, because I always wanted to come back and settle in Patna. Uh, so it was necessary that I get an opportunity which would cushion the impact of coming back all the way from the UK. So yes, I applied. I got the job, but it's always difficult to move from your comfort zone, as Rajesh Bhaiya was talking. So and I've seen, when I was in the UK, I was there for about 10 years, and a lot of my Indian colleagues, many of them harbor this ambition of coming back to India one day. But that never happens, because once your children grow up and they get used to the life there, they always find it difficult to come back. Fortunately, my son was only 4 years old, so he didn't take much time to adjust once we were here. Of course, my wife played a big role, because she was very supportive, because uh, of course, and she was also doing well in her career over there. So she's a pediatrician, and she had also gone through the entire training in the same way as I had done. But yes, she was also very supportive. So it was difficult. Uh, as they say, इस पार प्रिय तुम हो मधु है उस पार न जाने क्या होगा. So there's always this fear of the unknown. And many of your friends and colleagues would tell you, "Oh, are you going back to Bihar? Do you think you will adjust? And life is this, life is that." But no, I had grown up in the streets of Patna, and I had traveled in the autos on Ashok Rajpath. So I knew what life was like. So I was always prepared for it. Was it the right decision or not? I don't think we should look at it this way. I mean, you take a decision and then you prove it right. That's been my philosophy. So I've never tried to judge this decision on that scale, that whether I did the right thing or not. I did what I wanted to do, and I have enjoyed my life here. Of course,
Clever people do that.
thank
Clever people do that. Now, quickly,
you.
it
Yes.
is a very tough time handling COVID all around.
Mm.
So we would just quickly like to know about your management of COVID in Patna, and obviously AIMS were one of those centers. So we would like to know about that as well.
So, yes, about 10 months ago in March, we knew something was going to happen. We were all very apprehensive about it. We didn't know what life would be like. But we also knew that this was the time when we would be tested. I mean, uh, there was no um, shirking of the responsibility there. Uh, but yes, we were all very apprehensive, and we could feel that even among our other staff members, so junior people and support staff, they were all very apprehensive. But what we learned, the important leadership lesson we learned here was that you really have to lead from the front, because I'm not talking about myself in particular, but the entire team at AIMS Patna. Once they saw that even the senior people were coming to the wards and seeing patients, and so everyone else started gathering that courage. And the other important thing I learned, the important leadership lesson that I learned was that in difficult and challenging times, it's something more than the textbook management lessons that you have to rely on. The kind of work that people, and not just doctors, but nurses and security staff and support staff and cleaners and everyone else, the kind of work that they have actually done, uh, that is not because of any pressure from the management alone, or because of any monetary incentives. In fact, there are no monetary incentives. That is only because people have risen to the occasion, and there's something inside you which really encourages you to come up to rise to the occasion when you're faced with these kind of unprecedented challenges. So yes, uh, uh, fortunately, we also had some very good leadership from the top. So our director and other people who were around him, they were very proactive. So we created protocols right at the beginning, and it has been a dynamic thing, because as you know, COVID was a new disease. We knew very little about it 6 months, 7 months ago, and the protocols have been changing and evolving. But we were very proactive with that, and not just the medical protocols, but the way things would run within the hospital, the entire patient pathway. Everything was very well planned and thought out, and we implemented it to the best of our ability.
Great, yeah. Yeah. So Ravi, thanks for your very interesting insight. So I will go to Abhijit Bhaiya again. So Abhijit Bhaiya, you had a superb career as a student as well. And we'd also like to, know what was your most significant accomplishment of your career.
Uh, accomplishment is not the word I would use. I would say I'm most proud of having done a few things. One thing especially is, landing on my feet after the big financial crisis of 2008. I was in at a large bank in New York, and during that period, it looked like everything was going to just crash completely. Um, and a lot of people in our area of work, we have found ourselves out on the street pretty much. And it was a very tough time for people my age to be looking for a job. It's kind of a very competitive environment in the US. And even though nobody really discriminates as such, but the older you get, the harder it is to get a job. I taught myself a lot of new skills, things that were, and all the technologies and everything had moved on also. So I had to kind of go back to school in a way and learn a lot of new things. Of course, the internet helps a lot in these things. If you have a mind to study anything, you can find a way to do it. So yeah, I would say that's what I'm most proud of. You know, reinventing my career and finding another career after the big financial crash.
Thank you, Brad. Thank you, Brad. So again, Rajesh, we are to you. So we would like to understand because CBI has been, I think, your tenure in CBI, and during that era, it was a lot of things happening in the country as well. So could you throw some light on your tenure in the CBI, those 7 years, please?
Uh, if you exempt me, I'd not like to go into the specifics of, what I did in the CBI. Of course, I handled cases of Chandaswamy and Lakhubai Pathak, which involved the former Prime Minister also. But let's not go into that because, those are sensitive areas. Among the more challenging things, of course, is the recent one of the COVID times. You would recall that in the initial days, there was a lot of things that one did not understand about the disease. So when we started developing our protocols, because as you know, we have a very wide interface with the general public at the airports and Delhi Metro, and also other, vital government installations where we are deployed. So every week, the protocol had to be tweaked to, incorporate the new inputs that we were being provided by the Ministry of Health and other medical professionals. So it was a constant challenge to keep our men safe. And of course, our men, the places that they reside in, these are not the most ideal conditions because they are there in barracks. The loos are not really the best, the most hygienic ones. So one had to take care of the residents, the transport to the work, and of course the environment at the workplace. So we had very detailed, stringent protocols for all these three sectors. This was a huge challenge, and of course, along the way, we also made a lot of sacrifices. My team made a lot of sacrifices, but they never buckled under the pressure. That is the most remarkable part. We had casualties, but we kind of plodded along.
But yeah, the last 6 months of your career, in CISF particularly, would have been very challenging because this COVID movements and all these cases, and these guys were front runner warriors actually.
True.
Handling people, run with a great job for all the worksmen. So we would like to know, how did you handle it from the second end of it?
See, apart from the protocol that I did mention, the one thing I stressed upon repeatedly was communication with the personnel, almost on a daily basis. So the unit commanders made it sure that they were conversing with their men, keep the morale high. And I myself was on VC with my supervisors and trying to egg them on and be more involved in the entire exercise. We also developed a business continuity plan so that, once the normalcy returns, we have the work going on as usual. So it was communication, involvement, and of course, developing protocols which was adhered to very, very strictly. That is how we managed the whole crisis. And because of that, the operations at the airports or at Metro when it commenced, it did not suffer even for one day. In fact, the initial days when the government of India decided to bring our nationals from different countries, particularly students, the airport environment, if you had seen that environment, it was right from a horror movie. It used to take almost 5 to 6 hours on average for a passenger to come out of the airport. And within that, closed environment, you had thousands of people gathered from different flights coming in from UK, USA, Paris, other places. And in the midst of all this, our personnel, they were facilitating the health checkups, the immigration checkups, everything, right from security to health to immigration, everything was being done because these were the uniformed personnel at the airport. But we managed, because we kept the morale high somehow. There's another incident which dates back to my days as SP in Begusarai. And those were days when, extortion and kidnapping used to be quite common there. Do I have the time? Can I take 2 minutes?
Yes, please go on, sir.
So when I got transferred out of Begusarai, 1 year later, there was the kidnapping of a businessman in the town. And for 2 or 3 days, the entire district was shut down because, the IMA, the medical professionals there and the business community, they had given a call for ban. And I was called by the chief minister and asked to go and try and figure out the case. So I went there. I went as an outsider because I had actually no locus standi because I was not the SP of the district. I did deploy a few informers that I had from my SP days. And as luck would have it, we learned that the gang which had done the kidnapping, it had passed on the victim to another gang for doing the subsequent negotiations. And we decided to raid that particular village in the night, and we did raid it with a platoon of BSF. And we reached the hideout just in time, because when the gangsters realized that the police was there, they actually gagged the man and they were trying to kill him with bricks. And we reached him just before, they managed to kill him. So this was one incident which, for me, it was a situation where a lot of things were at stake. If I had failed, then, there was no answering to the government. But somehow we managed. So of course, one had challenges and all along in the career, but somehow luck favored me.
Superb, yeah. Very good, yeah. It has been a splendid career, and again, as I always say, so we have all of you, all three of you are incredible, which is again a great first.
Can you say hello to Mr. Francis? I can see Mr. Francis on the screen.
Yeah, He's the guest teacher.
Yeah. How are you, sir?
Fine, fine. I was just thinking of few people. Abhijit and Kirti, I talk to him always.
Arey,
I'm with him. And also Ravi and Abhijit, I have taught him. He was coming for
of course,
tuition.
of course.
Yes. And I taught his sister also.
Yeah.
I was very close to his father.
I remember about you, sir, one thing, that when I would sing, and I would invariably sing Mukesh's song.
अरे वाह.
आप मुझे टोकते थे कि ये गम वाले गाने क्यों गाते हो, खुशी वाले गाने गाओ. I could see the joy on your face.
In fact, one story about Sir Francis was that when he sings, his children say, "Yare, dekho," when Mukesh sings on the radio, the children said, "Dekho, Papa ga raha hai."
सर का एक छोटा सा इंटरव्यू लिए थे इनके बर्थडे पे, so we'll just share it now. Uday, can you please share that video? Today again a very fortunate day, 25th of December 2020. I got a chance to meet Robin Francis sir, a legendary teacher of our school, St. Michael's, Patna. Very, very happy birthday to you, sir, and a Merry Christmas to you as well.
Thank you very much. God bless you. I'm blessing everybody with the family, including their father, mother, everyone, even the kids. I want them to have their prosperous life, and they reach the highest in their life, in
Thank
their
you, sir.
achievement.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot, and thanks from every Michaelite watching this. Moreover, we would like to know about your memory. You have got such a large memory, and you have been showing a lot of people the yearbooks, which is a great gesture as a teacher. So, can you tell me what is the secret of that
Secret
memory?
is I don't
I
don't take any kind of bad things and all, and always try to think positive.
Right.
Because of that, my memory power is still good.
Fantastic. और वो एक गाना सुनना है जो आपका फेवरेट है.
आज तुमसे दूर होकर ऐसा रोया मेरा प्यार, चांद रोया साथ मेरे, रात रोई बार बार, चांद रोया साथ मेरे, रात रोई बार बार.
बिग राउंड ऑफ अप्लॉज. सर प्रणाम. और सर का सबसे बड़ा खूबी क्या है, 1970 से लेट 1990s तक, 97 तक सर सेंट माइकल्स में थे, और लेजेंडरी टीचर. और हम शुरू से बोलते हैं सर हीरो तो शुरू से हैं, पहले कादर खान और आज भी कादर खान एज यंग. और मेरा सर से रिश्ता 3 डिकेड हो गया है, 90 से अभी तक में 30 साल पुराने की बात कर रहा हूँ, बस सर अभी भी वही है. प्रणाम सर.
Thank you.
थैंक यू.
God bless you. God bless you.
थैंक यू सर. थैंक यू सर. एक बार दोबारा आपको गाना गाना पड़ेगा सर, एक बार.
कौन सा?
जो आपको
हम
पसंद
बताएं,
हो.
तुम अगर मुझको न चाहो तो कोई बात नहीं.
अच्छा, तुम अगर मुझको न चाहो तो कोई बात नहीं, तुम किसी और को चाहोगी तो मुश्किल होगी, तुम किसी और को चाहोगी तो मुश्किल होगी.
वाह वाह.
ज्यादा
सही बात है सर.
वेरी गुड सर. अब सबको एक बार आशीर्वाद दे दीजिए आप सर.
देखो ये राजेश का फोटो, ठीक है.
हाँ हाँ, बहुत अच्छा.
ठीक है ना. देखो
जी.
किसका किसका है, इसका भी अभिजीत का भी है.
Sir, I went to sir's place and I could see all the photos of all the yearbooks he has. He has got a great collection.
Yeah.
अंबर सर, एक गाना आप भी सुना दीजिए आप सर.
मैं?
हाँ सर.
अच्छा चलो सुन लो. ओके.
अभिजीत का.
होठों से छू लो तुम, मेरा गीत अमर कर दो, बन जाओ मीत मेरे, मेरी प्रीत अमर कर दो. Yahoo!
Brilliant. So we come towards the end of Incredible Michaelites. So I will go to each of the participants for 2 lines on the Incredible Michaelites and St. Michael's as a whole. So I will start with Rajesh Bhaiya.
Again, great initiative, and it brought back such happy memories, apart from, of course, interacting with fellow Michaelites. And wish you success in the future, and look forward to actually watching more of these episodes. Thank you.
Thanks, Bhaiya. Abhijit Bhaiya.
Thank you, Nishant. It's a very good show that you have put together. I would say always maybe Francis sir ko dekh lag raha hai, maybe always try to get a teacher also. It sort of really changes our whole attitude rather than just talking about us. इनको तो देख के मुझे फट से वो गाना याद आ गया, यही गाते थे.
So this idea came from Amber sir to get a teacher on each episode, because he's a part of that moderation team. So we get a teacher to bless us. So we got K.N. Mishra sir earlier, and then Mr. Mazumdar at one point as well. Thank you, Bhaiya. Ravi, your 2 lines on Incredible Michaelites and St. Michael's on a whole.
Right. So thank you, Nishant, for this wonderful initiative. We all have very fond memories of our school, and we've been very fortunate to have some really great teachers. I would name Robin Francis sir and Amber Banerjee sir just because they are here and they were truly great teachers. But of course, all the other names that we have discussed today, we've learned a lot from all of them. And once again, I would like to thank you for having me here, and a fantastic initiative. All the best.
Fantastic. So before we finish, I will again read out the incredible achievements and milestones. So again, it was 225 days of activities, 7.5 months of the concept, 53 incredible Michaelites attended, 19 batches, 14 cities, 8 countries, 18 webinars, 1 school, unlimited talent. So on webinar 19, we will have Mr. Chandan Sinha, Director SBI. We'll have Mr. Ajay Jha, Ex-Finance Secretary. We'll have Mr. Kumar Vinay Pratap, Joint Secretary, Minister of Home. Stay tuned and stay with us. Thanks, Amber sir. Thanks, Robin Francis sir. Thank you, Rajesh Bhaiya. Thank you, Abhijit Bhaiya. Thank you, Ravi. And stay tuned to the Incredible Michaelites. A lot of more stuff going to come soon. Thank you.